This is the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, welcome to another episode of Geek Smack, episode number 262, Don't Text and Drive. We're going to talk about texting and driving and deaths and all that other good stuff. We're also going to talk, well, it's not really good stuff, it's kind of bad stuff, but we're also going to talk about Amazon and all the acquisitions that they made. We're going to talk about Microsoft and Bill Gates and the life story between Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. We're going to talk about a whole bunch more. We're brought to you today by juststand.org, of course, over at Roku, GoDaddy, and Wirecast. So let's get started for your Geek Smack for this week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, Jeffrey Powers here. How are you doing? Welcome to Geek Smack, the show where we smack the geek out of you like we smack the geek out of people that text and drive. Don't do it. It's bad. Bad, bad, bad. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of other stuff, a lot of tech news, a little bit of geek news, and everything in between, geeking us out as best as we can. How you doing today? If this is the first time that you come to this show, thank you very, very much for coming to this show. We do this show every Tuesday for a Wednesday consumption or a Tuesday evening consumption. If you're sitting in front of your TV and saying, hey, every single show is going through their finals right now and there's probably nothing to watch on TV after that, well, what are we going to watch this summer? Well, watch some Geek Smack. Get into podcasts and check out all the cool shows that are out there in podcast world. It's very important. And it's very cool, and you might learn some things, and you might find a new friend like myself. Hi, I'm your friend. How you doing? Let me give you a handshake. So anyway, thanks a lot for coming to the show. You can catch me over at Geekazine.com. Think magazine, put in a geek. You got Geekazine. It's a perfect marriage in the perfect world we call Geekazine. And, of course, you can find me in other places. Like, for instance, did you know I do another website called How to Record Podcasts? If you're into podcasting, check that all out. It's over at howtorecordpodcasts.com. Howtorecordpodcasts.com. And of course, that shows you everything about podcasting. The last post we had was called Corporation for Public Podcasting. I'm actually putting together a series for you, the people that actually want to do a podcast at your place of work. And I go over what you might want to take a look at, things that you should consider before you put this podcast together. And of course, put the podcast together. Simple as that. So check that out over at howtorecordpodcasts.com. All right, we are on week 2 of my 10,000 step challenge. Let's go back here. What do you think? Did I lose some weight yet? No? Okay. Well, it's basically I'm doing 10,000 steps a day. I haven't done 10,000 steps today yet because, of course, I always get the podcast out first. And then I go and do 10,000 steps. Plus, it's supposed to hit up to 85 degrees. So that's going to make this walk really, really warm, as opposed to the last few days where it was really, really cold. So I got my shorts on. It's a nice temperature in here, but I bet you by this afternoon I will be sweating like a banshee. And that's expected. So anyway, that's the 10,000 step challenge. Of course, it is also Bike to Work Week. So if you haven't got your bikes all set up and gone out, you should do that. I set up Jennifer's bike last week, so it should be good to go. We just have to run some final tests. The tires stayed inflated, so the bike's ready to go. So anyway, let's get into your Tech Smack for the week because we've got a lot to go through. And of course, Tech Smack is brought to you by our friends over at juststand.org. They ask the question, do you have sitting disease? That is, do you sit for 8 or 9 hours in a day at your job? As an IT admin, I'd always get that desk, and I was always looking for that one chair with the lumbar support and the 15 different dials to get that right feeling so I could sit in my seat for the whole day. But little did I know, that actually hurt more than it helped. And for standing for just a couple hours a day could not only make my back feel better, it'll make me work a little bit more ergonomically and actually lose some weight. Now, back in January, I interviewed the folks over at juststand.org, and they outfitted me with a Work Fit D desk. That's what this desk is right here. Let me show you. This is the WorkFit D desk. I can raise it, I can lower it whenever I want to. I can lower it so I can sit. I can raise it so I can do the show. I can raise it even higher so I can, kind of lean against it as I'm working and get the right area so I can work ergonomically and I can work comfortably. And that's the important thing. Of course, I do Geek Smack and iPad 365 episodes right from this desk. And I also sit here and I work. I've got a monitor right here. I swing it over and I work here for a couple hours a day standing, so I get more blood flow going to my legs, so I protect myself from things like low blood sugar, which is in my family history, heart disease, and other illnesses you could get by not being in motion and not standing. Every 2 hours of sitting, it reduces blood flow and lowers your blood sugar. So stand for 2 to 3 hours, and you can be prolonging your life and feeling a lot better. Get the facts over at www.juststand.org, juststand.org, or check out the solutions for your office, including the WorkFit D desk. And but of course, if you're also a gamer, check out the TV solutions for your home TV so they can get that TV right to you so you can game properly. That's over at juststand.org. All right, let's get into your Tech Smack for this week. We're going to start over. Samsung has advanced antenna. They're creating a new antenna that runs on the 2.5 gigahertz band, and they plan to have it commercially available in 2020. It basically transmits data up to 1,056 gigabits per second over 2 kilometers. They prep it in the 28 gigahertz spectrum. Now, you might be saying to yourself, 2 kilometers? Wow, that's pretty small. I need to be a few miles away, just only a couple miles away from the antenna. That's not right. Well, that's why they're saying 2020. Right now, they've got it set up. It can go 2 kilometers, but by next year, it could be 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers. They're not the first people to do that. Of course, there are other people. There is a company, or actually there's a university, the Tokyo Institute of Technology, that's prepping for what they didn't call it 5G speeds, because a lot of people are saying that there's probably not going to be 5G speeds. It'll probably still be called 4G, but it'll be extended 4G, maybe a 4G plus or something like that. I don't know. But we might not see 5G or 6G or 7G or 20G. It might just stick at 4G and go from there. But you never know how technology goes. They might say, okay, we'll do 5G tomorrow. And then again, they go, no, maybe not. So you can check that all out. We've got the whole full article right here. And of course, everything is in the show notes over at geekazine.com. Let's move from there. Of course, that was over at news.geekazine.com, by the way, which we started up. I started it up last week. So new articles. Of course, if you want to write for news.geekazine.com, drop me a line over at geekazine@gmail.com. You can also Twitter me over at Geekazine, and then the hotline is 608-205-4378. Let's move on from there. AT&T, this is over at Apple Insider. AT&T is reportedly dropping the HTC Facebook phone after the sales really didn't hit that well. Now, just last week, they knocked it down to 99 cents from a $99 phone. So it was $99 with a 2-year contract. It was normally $350. But then they said, no, we'll drop it down to 99 cents. Maybe we'll get some more people that are interested. But they only sold something like 15,000 phones. It was crazy. And Facebook Home, the new version of Facebook Mobile, has only downloaded, they just hit a million downloads yesterday, which is really odd because, something like that should be instantaneous, and they should be hitting about 10, 15 million downloads right away, especially since there's a lot of Android phones out there, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the episode. AT&T is basically saying, we do pricing promotions all the time on the 99 cent thing. That's what that was about. It's not official as far as I saw so far, but this is sources, unknown sources. So basically we will know when we know, and then we know, And so basically, once that happens, a lot of speculation that the HTC first is done, it might not be the end of the Facebook phone, but it's not a good start because you remember 2 years ago, Microsoft tried it with the Microsoft Kin. They had Kin 1 and Kin 2, which were like these little clamshell phone things. And they just kind of dropped them off after a month too. So not the, like I said, not the determining factor, but not very good for Facebook. It's not very good for my Facebook share, which is still at $26.62. I've lost $10 on this deal. I'm pretty upset for that. Anyway, let's move on from there. Going from there, we'll go back over to news.geekazine.com. Amazon they did a few things this week, but we're going to talk about this first. Amazon Coin, virtual currency for Amazon purchases for your Kindle Fire. If you had a Kindle Fire, you got a message saying, hey, guess what? You just got 500 Amazon coins, which were basically $5. You can use those coins to buy apps and games as well as items inside apps and games. And if you want to purchase additional coins, you can do that at a discount. Excuse me, got to take a drink of water here. Keep hydrated in the warm months here. So anyway, Amazon has started their virtual currency for Kindle Fire. Of course, if you have an earlier Kindle Fire, I don't think you got it, because I got one of the e-readers, one of the low-end e-readers, and I probably don't have any coins from there. So, but of course you can purchase coins, and I have a feeling they're doing that on the tails of what Bitcoin has been doing, and Bitcoin has kind of been hitting and missing as they go. And we're going to talk about Bitcoin a little bit later on in the episode. But it's pretty interesting to see how Amazon is doing this. They're also going to kind of skirt by sales tax and stuff like that. You'll have to, when you pay for coins, you'll have to pay sales tax for the coins once the internet sales tax comes into play. But when you have the coins or you're given the coins, you don't have to, there's no sales tax on that. So interesting stuff there. It's also, I also wonder, is the internet sales tax going to be dealing with virtual stuff such as apps? Because an app, you can never get an app at a mom and pop shop. So since it sits in a virtual space, does it need to have internet sales tax to it? I'm going to ask a few people about that. I'll get the answer to you. It's my own personal query that I'm going to query to you. And if you have an answer to that, let me know. Tweet me at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com. Let's move on from there. Google and Microsoft have made improvements to their Drive and SkyDrive, respectively. And this is over at tomsguide.com. They're unifying the virtual cloud storage over at Google. So that's basically used by OneDrive. So what that means is you have 15 gigabytes. If you want to pay for more, you can. But you have 15 gigabytes for your mail, for your documents, for your spreadsheets, for your pictures, for whatever. 15 gigabytes. Once you use that, it's used. So, and I think that's a great thing because some of us have larger emails than we do our Google Drive. Sometimes we have more documents than we do mail. And of course, we can clean that all out and go from there. Now, SkyDrive is doing the same thing. They've jumped up the volume another, I think, 10 gigabytes as well. Excuse me, not gigabits, but gigabytes. So there's a lot of changes over there. Microsoft announcing the improvements to SkyDrive so you can upload and manage photos to your cloud, and a lot more. You can check it out over on tomsguide.com for more information. Let's move on from here. Let's go over to the Android community over at androidcommunity.com. Gartner's talking about quarter four. Yeah, let's put an ad right there. There we go. Talking about quarter four and the numbers for Android phones. And they found that, hey, you know, 2/3 of all smartphones are Android or using Android in some flavor and shape. Now you might think, hey, that's pretty impressive. No, it's not. Because you have ice cream sandwiches is the latest version. You have Jelly Bean, which a lot of people are on. And then you have all the previous versions, which are kind of like using Windows XP right now. And it's good and bad. I mean, the biggest thing is the security issues that these phones have. So, and this is why I don't like cheaper smartphones, because they're soon forgotten. And then when there's security issues, they try and repair those security issues, of course. but there's still a lot of people that probably don't even update their phone from since they got it. And that's pretty disappointing. But what can you do? I mean, if they don't update the phone, you can't. Can you force them to update the phone? I suppose. If you were AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile or Sprint, you could say, "Hey, we're not going any further until you do this update and get to this point." And of course, there's some forced updates on Android phones, and I understand why they have to do that. As an IT administrator, I'd hate that, but you have to weigh the good with the bad and figure out which one is the better. And the better in this case is making sure that people are updated to a certain point, which brings us to the two-thirds of the Android. This was in quarter one of 2013. Of course, this landscape could change easily and go from there. Now, the other thing that they really didn't talk about too much is what types of Android. I mean, you have like, for instance, with Android tablets, you have a Kindle Fire, you have the Barnes & Noble Nook, and then you have the Android, you have the Nexus 7 and the other Android tablets. Same thing with phones. Each phone, like for instance, I have the LG Optimus G, which has a flavor of Android on it that's specific to LG, because they made their own little tweaks and modifications. I can't take that operating system and put it on a Samsung phone or another phone or an HTC or whatever phone. So if you want to read more on that, go over to androidcommunity.com. Let's move on from there. Let's go over to Mashable. We're going back into the Amazon world. The Cloud Player launches a PC app for all of you that are looking Windows 8 and not, well, interesting about Windows 8. We've got a few articles coming up on Windows 8. But Amazon has put out a Windows 8 Cloud Player app for PCs on Monday. You can check that out. You can go ahead and download that. You can also, they also offered their iOS compatibility with Ford Sync enabled vehicles. So that means that you can now use the Amazon Cloud Player in sync with the sync with the Ford vehicles, which I talked about. I wrote an article about that. I don't remember if I did that on news.geekazine.com or another site. So check that all out. We've got the link here in Mashable.com. So if you've got Android Cloud Player, you can actually use it more on your PC. You can use it now in your Ford Sync cars. So you can pretty much dial your own music in and forego a radio. Let's move on from there. We're going back over to Tom's Hardware. Amazon has also confirmed the acquisition of Liqua Vista from Samsung. Now, if you remember correctly, or if I remember correctly, you always remember correctly, I remember correctly, it was about a year ago, Samsung kind of did this thing where they were getting away from the LCD division. They kind of, this one company they were moving away from. I think this is the company that they ended up moving away from. Another company bought them. They prepped it and then sold it to Amazon. As the way that I read this, that's how that works. So the company called Haverhill LLC basically has no presence. So they're just basically a broker. So they bought from Samsung, turned to Amazon. Now the question is, what is Amazon going to do with Liqua Vista? Well, of course they have the Kindle Fire, so they'll probably put some of that technology into the Kindle Fire, but they might also be working on some of their other tablets, that maybe even the old e-readers and stuff like that, and beefing them up for their, but they could also be looking into other things. You know, an Amazon TV, not too far-fetched. They were just throwing out a whole bunch of previews, not previews, but the word that I'm thinking of is called a pilot. That's it, a pilot. And they have a whole bunch, you know, like Zombieland, betas, alphas. There was no, not alphas, betas, and then a whole bunch of other shows that were pilots. So I could see Amazon getting ready to gear up and make their own Amazon TV, just like Apple TV, just like Google TV, so on and so forth. So if you want to read more on this, go over to tomshardware.com. That does it for the first part of the show, the tech part of the show. We're going to get into Geek Smack and go from there. So we will be right back. And of course, we're going to talk about, and don't text and drive. We're going to talk about that later. So we'll be right back. All right, let's get the right intro going for you. Welcome to Geek Smack. Geek Smack's brought to you by my other website, www.dayintechhistory.com. Your tech history every single day in a audio format. I do a few different podcasts, like I showed you earlier, howtorecordpodcasts.com. A lot of people come to me and ask questions about podcasting, so that's where this website is. I also do some podcast consulting, so you can contact me and talk about that. But dayintechhistory.com, go over to www.dayintechhistory.com to find out all the cool history. Like, for instance, on May 14th, happy birthday to George Lucas, the man who just sold our dreams to Disney. Happy birthday. But no, seriously though, George Lucas, he was born in 1944, and so that makes him 69 years old? 59 or 69. I think it's 69 doing the math. But anyway, happy birthday to George Lucas. Of course, we also talk tech, lots of geek news, a little bit of science news. That's over at dayintechhistory.com, over at www.dayintechhistory.com. You can find the Android app over at in the Amazon store, and then of course you can also get through the App Store through a program called Podcast Box for the Day in Tech History. All right, let's get back into your tech news for this week, and then of course we'll be talking about texting and driving and how bad it is. And we're going to go over to the Telegraph, and we're going to start with an app that apparently was in Facebook, and Facebook said, "Whoa, wait a minute, no, this is not good." The app's name was called Social Network Killer. And basically what happens is it was an app that actually removes 1 in 6 friends out of your friends list. So you can clean up your friends list. So I'm guessing there was some sort of algorithm so it didn't get your best friends taken out, but apparently it just randomly takes out people that you were following. And Facebook says, we don't like that type of stuff. And I totally agree, because I don't want somebody else or some other program determining who I like for a friend or who I don't like for a friend. And so I think it's just a bad app. A lot of people, they go through the Facebook purges and the Twitter purges. Me personally, once I put something into something, it stays there. If you decide to unfriend me, that's your decision. But I always if I get your phone number, I keep your phone number in my phone. If I put you on my Twitter list, I keep you on my Twitter. You have to do something horribly bad to get me to take you off my Facebook, to get you to take me to take you off my Twitter. Because I'm in that area. I mean, I friend everybody, because everybody you never know when somebody watches Geek Smack. If I unfriend that person, they're gonna go, well, why am I watching Geek Smack if this guy unfriended me? Forget it. So I'm glad that Facebook did that, and I don't think any app should be like that. Period. But you might have a different decision on that. You might have a different opinion. Let me know what that is. You can Twitter me at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com. Let's move on from there. Let's go over to extremetech.com. We're talking about Bitcoins. And did you know that the Bitcoin outperforms their network outperforms the top 500 supercomputers combined? Why is that? Well, Bitcoins are getting pretty popular, and it's the if you're not sure what Bitcoins are, it's an alternative currency out there that has gotten a lot of play, and a lot of people have been trading them like regular currency. We talked about it a few weeks ago, how you could actually order pizzas with your Bitcoins that you collect. So now people are moving more and more Bitcoins, and the currency, I guess some people are trying to game it. And as everybody's trading and moving and bringing all this stuff, they've got more users on their systems, and therefore they're seeing up to about 5. They've got a super duper computer that's just running it, which is a series of many different servers that are running it nonstop. And because of all that action, it takes a lot of processing to do it. So therefore, 500 supercomputers. The whole thing is here. If you want to read more on it, go over to extremetech.com. I haven't gotten into Bitcoins just yet, and I don't know if I'm going to. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but I'm not 100% for it. And I could see a lot of people turn around and game the system to the point that the Bitcoin ecostructure could completely implode on each other, crash upon each other. And if that happens, then all that work that I do on Bitcoins is gone. So I don't know. I'm going to wait and see what happens with it. And I don't know. Do you use Bitcoins at all? Let me know. You can Twitter me at Geekazine, of course, geekazine@gmail.com. Let's move on from there. We're going over to multichannel.com. Netflix is still king of the downstream. People that have Netflix, I don't personally have Netflix myself because I never see something that I want to watch on Netflix. But a lot of people do, mostly because of the fact that they have kids, and there's a lot of kids programming on there. But apparently during prime times, Netflix accounts for 32.25% of fixed network downstream traffic and those are the peak periods of 2013. Not 2003, but 2013. Netflix probably did dominate something in 2003 as well, but in 2013 they take up 32.25% of fixed networks. So, and then it's getting it a wireless system on your iPad watching a Netflix movie. That's basically what that boils down to. So, pretty interesting stuff. And even during the rise of YouTube, basically accounts for 17.11% of peak downstream traffic. So that's even more interesting that people are watching Netflix over YouTube. That might change now that YouTube has got a subscription model, but we'll see what happens as we go. If you want to check out more, go over to multichannel.com. Let's move on from there. We're going over to PCWorld.com. Firefox has updated their software to Firefox 21. 5 new updates, 5 new features, coming to the Firefox update. One of them is the do not track option. We have the health reports, startup suggestions, improved performance, and expanded social API. So I stopped using Firefox about 3-4 years ago when Chrome came around, and just after Chrome came around, and I was kind of hesitant to move to Chrome because I love Firefox, but Firefox was just so laggy. It was so horrible, and I just switched over. I was done with Firefox, and I switched to Chrome, and I never switched back. We'll see if the updates actually get me to start thinking about switching back to Firefox. So anyway, if you want to read more on that, go over to PCWorld.com. Going from PC World to Computer World, nice little article about Bill Gates here. Of course, Bill Gates, he basically grew up. Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they were born around the same. That's 1965, 1966, I think are the dates. And so basically, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs grew up almost side by side. They knew of each other when Bill Gates was in New Mexico, Steve Jobs was in California, and they were both trying to do something, and they crossed paths many, many times. Early on, they crossed paths. When Apple needed help and Microsoft helped with the 10-year deal with Microsoft Office, that they crossed paths there. They've crossed paths many times, and there probably were times where they called each other up and said, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Hey, Steve, what's going on? Hey, Bill, what's going on?" Stuff like that. So, Bill Gates goes into a very interesting article talking with Charlie Rose about that, about the bringing up and working with, or not with, but working kind of against Steve Jobs, and how that what's the word I'm thinking of? That unity worked out. I guess unity is not the word I was thinking of, but you understand what I'm talking about here. Go over to blogs.computerworld.com to find out more. All right, going back over to PC World, Windows 8, speaking of Microsoft, a lot of people are really wondering what's going on with the PC market. They think Windows 8 is what's killing it. Of course, Windows 8 going on that mixed approach that they go, they have an operating system that goes from desktop to tablet without any extra software or anything like that, as opposed to Apple, which has an OS for their iPad and their iPhone, and then an OS for their MacBooks and Mac Pros, so on and so forth. So basically, Microsoft is a lot of people are saying that Microsoft Windows 8 really isn't the best in the world. A lot of critics, a lot of analysts are basically saying Windows 8 is killing the PC. And of course, we might see a little bit of that in 8.1 as Microsoft backtracks a little bit and brings back that start button. And I think once that happens, a lot of people will accept the Windows 8. I think that Metro screen is what's really bringing people down on this. But, that's my personal opinion. What do you think? Do you think if they brought back the start button in 8.1 blue, will you switch to Windows 8? Let me know. Twitter me at Geekazine or geekazine@gmail.com. All right, last article in the second half here, and then we'll get you on to the main subject here. How to turn your Google image search into a game of Breakout. Google showed this off yesterday. I got to play it this morning. So basically what happens is you go into Google, you go to the image search on Google, and you type in Atari Breakout. And then what it does is it randomly finds a picture. It'll put a word into the image search, like cars or something like that. And then all of a sudden it'll turn each bar of the Breakout game into an image. So technically there's a car in there. You don't see it. It's hard to see. So unless you have like a super big screen in front of you, you won't see the pictures that you're breaking with the little ball. But then you can play the game of Breakout. You can use your mouse, or you can use, well, at least I was using the trackpad, or I was using the keyboards, the left and right option. I didn't find any other secret keys or anything like that. So just a little fun way to do an image search. It does have a little quirk to it, though, at least in Chrome, because when it gets past the first level, the second level, what it'll do is it'll try and find the new set of pictures. And it'll put in a word like, we'll say khakis, and then it'll find khakis, and it'll switch over to the Breakout, and then it's like it all of a sudden loops, and then tries to find a new picture, and then it refreshes, and then Breakout screen shows up, and then it tries to find a new picture. So you can't play it, at least in Chrome on Mac. So that was a little bug that I found. But anyway, if you want to play Atari Breakout, check it out. We've got the link over at usatoday.com. All right, that does it for the second half. We're going to get you into the Text Mac. We're going to talk about texting and driving, how it's changed. Yeah, it has changed over the years. And why you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it. Don't do it. So anyway, we will be right back with Geek Smack. With over 700 channels to choose from, the Roku should be part of your entertainment center, and the price is great. You got channels from Amazon to Netflix to Hulu Plus, and of course you can add to your pay channels like HBO Go. You also have Disney for the kids. You have tons of ways to entertain people. Not only movies, but you can also have great games, such as Pac-Man, such as Galaga, and of course, Angry Birds. And that's all through the Roku entertainment system. Now let me show you one channel that's in particular near and dear to my heart, and that's over here, the techpodcast.com channel. If you go to the techpodcast.com channel, you go into the video and you go into tech news, you will find not only iPad 365, but Geekazine's special media feed, and then of course the show Geek Smack, all on your Roku right there. So check it out. Prices start at $50 to no more than $100 for all this great entertainment. Do that by going over to geekazine.com/Roku. That's geekazine.com/Roku to get yourself a Roku player and start watching movies, start watching content, and start playing Angry Birds over at geekazine.com/Roku. All right, and of course the Roku 3 is out. I'm still waiting for my Roku 3, and once I get that done, I'll do the full review on that and go from there. All right, don't text and drive, period. I can say that until I'm blue in the face, but people will still do it. I watched a driver just the other day weave back and forth. When I passed them, I watched as the person was fumbling around with their cell phone. The person wasn't even a teen. Now, there's a national survey that shows about 44% of teenagers admitted to texting and driving. Those teenagers reported texting and driving at least once in the previous month. Compared to teens who aren't texting and driving, those who were also more likely not to use a seatbelt. They were also likely to drink and drive and take a ride from somebody else who has been drinking. The number of teens who died or were injured as a result of texting while driving has basically skyrocketed. Researchers at the Cohen Children's Medical Center in New Hyde Park estimate now 3,000 annual teen deaths nationwide in texting and over 300,000 injuries. If you're a teen, if you're an adult, you probably have heard the stories. I have those stories, basically the ones where your parents would, as teens with their driver's license, barrel down a road at 70 miles per hour with no seatbelt. At the time, it was easy to do, and there were no seatbelt laws. There weren't any phones, so we couldn't text and drive at the time. But I do have stories from the early days when I had my cell phone and I was texting and driving. I memorized the pattern on my cell phone because the raised keys made it easy. All you had to do is there were always two dots on the phone. You find those little dots, and then you knew where your center was, and then you just texted from there. You remembered ABC. Number 2 was ABC. Number 3 was DEF, GHI, so on and so forth. So you just had to remember where the letter was and how many times you had to hit that. So ABC, if you wanted the C, you'd hit 2-3 times. Of course, that's completely changed since they took away the tactile feel of the phone keyboard. But in all reality, I shouldn't have been doing it back then. The hands-free units now help me make phone calls, even text and tweet out messages as I'm driving, at least if Siri complies with the request. There's so many technologies out there that try and stop a teen or an adult from texting or tweeting. The biggest way to get them to stop is to basically teach them not to do it. Teach them it's about their lives. Teach them it's about the lives of the people that they put in danger while doing that. Because once they understand that, they'll stop doing it. Simple as that. Let's stay safe out there. What are your thoughts on texting and driving? Have you had somebody that has had, an injury or a death, family member die because of a texting and driving incident? Please let me know. You can Twitter me at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com. You can also call the hotline at 608-205-4378. Of course, there's going to be lots of people that say don't text and drive, but the reality is don't text and drive. I want to see you around so you can call me and say, hey, I'm here and I like your show. Anyway, that does it for this episode of Geek Smack. Let me know. Once again, Geekazine is my Twitter handle. Go ahead and follow me. Ask me questions there. The email is geekazine@gmail.com and the hotline 608-205-4378. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening over on Stitcher, over on iTunes, and wherever else you watch the show or listen to the show. We will be back next Tuesday with another episode of Geek Smack. My name will still be Jeffrey Powers. You will still be you. You'll be geeking out. We'll be having fun. And we'll get some more tech news for you. Until then, you guys take care and geek out.